allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you could all just remain standing for a moment for me. We learned recently that former longtime school committee member Frances Zito recently passed away with her family on the West Coast, and I just ask that we take a moment of silence to remember her. Thank you. Thank you for coming to the regular school committee meeting of Monday, November 19th, 2018. This is your notice that this meeting is being electronically recorded. I did just want to start off by reflecting back on Ms. Zito. As I mentioned, recently passed away. As many of you know and many watching know, she was a longtime active member of the school committee, very serious advocate for the students and schools here in Attleboro, and her loss will be profound, that's for sure. Former chairman David Murphy sent along a statement to the school committee and school administration and asked that I read a few words from him, and so I will do that for him. Part of which he wrote was, in 2015, the Attleboro School Committee voted unanimously to name its chambers the Frances Zito Conference Room. This gesture reflected not just the length of her service, but the ideals that her service represented. Ms. Zito's children were fully grown when she was first elected, but her decision to join the school committee reflected her belief that public education was premised on all community members recognizing the shared interests and the well-being of our schools and students. Embracing that obligation is not about parenting, it's about being a quality citizen. Mrs. Zito's life, like so many of her generation, was defined by what she gave. She gave to her family, the patients of Morton Hospital, and to the customers of Zito's Market, as well as to the students of the Attleboro Public Schools. And to those of us honored to know her as a colleague and as a friend, she gave to us an example we will not soon forget. So again, I just want to thank Mrs. Zito's family for her long time service to the schools and everyone that she helped. Thank you. Ms. Johnson, do you want to say something as well?
Yes, just as the current representative for Ward 5, I just wanted to echo many of those statements. Really believe that the Ward 5 and the City of Attleboro owe a debt of gratitude to Mrs. Zito for all of her years of service. As a new parent to the school system, I could always reach out to her, and she's always very approachable. So there's definitely a personal connection there. But at the end of the day, both the students and the community are better off for her having served, and she'll definitely be very missed.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. And moving on, our first item on our agenda tonight is the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents Certificate of Academic Excellence Award. And for that, I'll turn it over to our superintendent, Mr. Sawyer.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to invite up to join me at the table Ellen Marshall and Mason Houle. Good evening, guys. Good evening. As one of the perks of being a member of the Massachusetts Association for School Superintendents, they do offer this award for academic excellence, and it is my pleasure to continue the tradition in Attleboro of awarding 2 students each year with this award. This year's honorees are Ellen Marshall and Mason Houle. The high school administration helps me every year to pick people who not only meet the criteria of academic excellence, but also really represent the best that Attleboro High School has to offer. As is the custom, I have lunch with the honorees and get a chance to meet them and talk to them about their experience, learn a little bit about them. Obviously the award connotes that they are excellent students. They're both looking to pursue schooling around engineering. Ellen is looking at biomedical engineering, and she's hoping to get into a program at UConn with an eventual career in dentistry maybe in the future. And Mason is looking to go to school in Boston, maybe BU, maybe Northeastern, and he too is pursuing engineering. So we have some future engineers amongst us, these engineering students, and I really enjoyed my time talking with them. I was really happy to hear them talk about how the faculty at AHS were such a part of their success, and how there was so much support that they received, and how that made a difference in their experience here. And we also talked about ways in which we can improve. I found it interesting in light of the high school reaching out to get a representative from the school committee on a scheduling committee, that some of their concerns were really rooted in some of the limitations of our schedule and how that had an impact on their own schooling. So it was very helpful for me to talk to them, and I certainly always enjoy hearing about how our work affects students, in their careers. At this time, I'll turn it over to you guys to say a word.
Good evening. Thank you to Superintendent Sawyer for choosing us for this award, and the school committee for having us tonight. I'm honored to receive this award and to represent the senior class. I think that at AHS there are many opportunities that are given to us, and there are many teachers that are always willing to offer help when you need it, and I think that has prepared me for the next chapter, which is college.
And I also would like to thank Superintendent Sawyer for selecting me out of the senior class for this award. And thanks to the school committee for having us tonight. This has a lot to do with the help and guidance of teachers at Attleboro High School. And I'm very thankful for all the opportunities they have given me. And I'm ready to use this knowledge and pursue other chapters in life.
Thank you both. Congratulations to you both. Obviously, you're chosen from amongst several hundred students, so it's something you certainly should be proud of, and have worked hard towards. So, thank you for your service and for your pursuing your education with such vigor, and being good representatives of the school community. We wish you all this success in your senior year and going forward. I'm sure you will make Attleboro and Attleboro High proud. And again, congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just read one. They both say the same thing. You guys can stand up when we hand it to you. This is a certificate of academic excellence. Alan Marshall, having duly qualified under the standards prescribed by the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents, is hereby awarded this certificate of academic excellence. In witness whereof, the seal of the association and the signature of the superintendent of schools are hereunto affixed. There you go. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Use the Zito plaque in the back.
Sure, yeah.
Are we opening that?
One, two, three. Mason, smile, please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's 2 rows of now.
Two free rows now.
Next on our agenda tonight is our spotlight event for tonight, and that is the Big Read in conjunction with the Attleboro Public Library. For that, I will turn it over to the Superintendent Sawyer to make introductions.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Donna Goldstein, our humanities district coordinator, to come on up.
Thank you.
And she will take it from here.
Hi, everybody.
Good evening.
It's a pleasure to see you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. One of the best parts of my job as humanities coordinator is I get to work with teachers throughout the district, different content areas, multiple grade levels. Additionally, I get to partner with people throughout the community, to foster the work that I do with students and teachers. And the Big Read is, it's an opportunity that both of them kind of converge upon. So it's a great thing. to do, and one that I'm excited to share with you tonight. So the City of Attleboro Big Read for 2018 was a novel called Five Skies by Ron Carlson. However, the focus of my comments tonight are going to be primarily around the middle school sister read that we did. And the book selected for that was Bridge to Terabithia by Catherine Patterson. Bridge to Terabithia was experienced as a community, district community big read by all 420 grade 7 students. The two novels, I'm sorry, I didn't move my, the two novels, Five Skies and Bridge to Terabithia, share common themes around the value of community, friendship, and acceptance, dealing with unexpected tragedy, and the value of building or creating. Students in grade 7 read and explored the interconnected themes in Bridge to Terabithia in several ways. In addition to reading the novel in English language arts class, they participated in Socratic seminars, they created authors' chairs, they were building community through a literature exploration. However, we collaborated with art teachers as well. So in art class, students also had the opportunity to express theme in hands-on ways. And finally, some students took their exploration off-site and went and did community or team building exercises together to promote inclusive behaviors. You're going to hear lots more about this from the students and teachers involved. When we developed the concept, working with the library, working with the teachers, our plan overall was to read, connect, collaborate, and create. Working off this frame, each middle school developed their own sequence of activities, and we're highlighting a few of these tonight. You can't see everything we did over the 2-month phase of it, but it was really exciting. The kids immersed themselves in many, many different ways into these notions of theme. After the middle schools present, we're going to circle back and share a collaboration that the high school carpentry department, part of the CTE, did with the official Attleboro Big Read in connection with Five Skies. I'll also talk a little bit about that as well, but we're going to start off with hearing from our middle schools. Our first middle school to present will be Brennan. The art teacher, Tracy Cornefeld from Brennan, is here with 3 students who are going to speak to their particular experience, and you're going to be able to look at some of these pictures as a backdrop.
We put them right down in front of him. All right, go ahead and put it down, Josh. I'm Tracy Cornefeld, and I am one of the art teachers at Brennan Middle School. I was working in collaboration with Catherine DeMello, who was one of the 7th grade ELA teachers, and who could not be here tonight. But fortunately, I have 3 great students that are here tonight. I've got Abigail and Natalie and Joshua. And I'm going to just read a short statement, and then they're going to just take it away. Okay. Reading The Bridge to Terabithia provided a wonderful opportunity to engage our students in a conversation about their own community. In pursuit of this end, the Brennan Middle School 7th grade drew connections all across Attleboro and within their classrooms. Students recognized the power of communication and teamwork on a ropes course field trip to a camp nestled in a forest not unlike Terabithia. Students brought pictures in that they felt symbolized Attleboro and worked together to create a mural of their thoughts and images. Students discussed the book not only with members of the Attleboro Big Read Committee, but also with their high school peers who came to Brennan to help run Socratic seminar discussions about the book's major themes. The threads stretched outward into their art classes and their social studies classes as they built communities of their own. In terms of the results, I'll let the students speak for themselves.
Thank you. Good evening, my name is Natalie.
And I'm Abigail.
First of all, we'd like to thank all our teachers for the support in being here today.
The project helped us convey the way we view the theme and how it impacts our community.
The book Bridge to Terabithia is mainly about building relationships and making connections. In our project, we show how we interpreted the way these things build the story and make them come to life.
Our project helps show the connection between 2 supposed opposites, Different ideas, personalities, interpretations, and adjectives can come together with just a simple act of kindness.
The story starts with Terabithia, a magical made-up land between two best friends, Jess and Leslie. Soon after they become friends, Leslie, Jess's best friend, passed away, giving Jess the vulnerability to connect with people he never thought he could connect with.
Our project symbolizes that by having a literal bridge of friendship connecting two contrasting buildings. Natalie has a newer looking model, while mine is more rustic. Connections with other people require you to be vulnerable, just like Jess learned to be.
This book really helped us understand that vulnerability is not a bad thing, and we really are privileged to have other people around us.
We really enjoyed this book's vivid pictures, symbolism, and themes.
Thank you.
Joshua?
So my design was built in the art room of Mrs. Cornefel. As you can see, I've put some time into it, and that didn't go through without being noticed. That's why Mrs. Cornefel allowed me to speak here about it and how it ties into the book we are reading, Bridge to Terabithia. My design features a crater on top with decaying plant life around it, and in the center is a hole with a rope that leads down into a cave, with bright blue crystals shining everywhere. It has a tiny wooden shack in the corner that has an icy cave right nearby, and in that cave there is a mammoth locked away in solid frozen ice. That's kind of all I got on there, but my teacher seemed to think it looked good, so I think it looked good. My project is supposed to tie in with the book Bridge to Terabithia. But at first when I looked at it, I was like, how am I supposed to do this? But I've learned that many things from the book fit, like where they travel to a magical land and swing across a rope. My cave here is filled with sparkling gems and a mammoth frozen shiny blue ice that has been locked in there since the dawn of time. The rope to get down into it is like the rope Jess and Leslie used to get to Terabithia. And the last way that I saw was kind of a different one. When you get to the crater on top, there is a drop straight down into the cave, and even that ties into the book. In the beginning of the book, Leslie was the new girl at school and wanted to be friends with Jess, but Jess was afraid of being her friend because she would always beat him in races. But he eventually broke the ice and had a blast being her friend, at least while it lasted. The crater is like Jesse's fear. He has to conquer them to get to the magical kingdom, but once he does, he becomes their king. That's how I think my project ties into the book Bridge to Terabithia. Thank you.
And there was one more page from Brendan before we move on to Coelho. So Ms. DeMello polled her students because this was promoting pro-social behaviors and trying to develop community at the very beginning of the year. And she asked the students to rate their teamwork at the beginning of this exploration and toward the end. And so you can clearly see that students felt a change in their sense of being able to come together as a unit and work cohesively, which really bodes well for their continued relationship building throughout the year. That was a great thing to do. So we're going to hear a little bit about Coelho's experience from Sue Casey.
Hi, folks. Nice to see you all tonight. So I'm flying solo from Coelho. So Kelly Bergeron, who is my cohort at Coelho, was out ill today and wasn't able to make it this evening. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what you see up on the slide. So back in May, when we were talking about the big read, I went to a PTO meeting and I met Carol Jo Mahoney from the YMCA. She was our guest speaker, and sort of these little flags were going up as I was listening to her. And at the time, our sixth graders are on the first floor of the building, and they were graduating up to the second floor in September. And they were having some struggles with kind of typical middle school things with getting along and middle school problems and whatnot. So I thought it would be a really nice opportunity for the when they came back, going upstairs, to go on this ropes course, this obstacle ropes course, team building experience. So we managed to put together a field trip, which was pretty crazy, in the second week of school, and brought 147 students to the location And the folks at Kippenberg were fabulous. We had rain 3 out of 4 days. We went Monday through Thursday. But the kids really enjoyed the rain and were able to kind of get through that. But they really enjoyed the team building experiences, and they were able to quote some of the things at the end was that they really felt that they didn't think that they were going to be able to get through certain obstacles, and they were pretty proud of themselves that they did and were able to do it. Some of the balancing, some of these other, I personally didn't get to go on these, the trips, but that they, working as a team, were able to get through the obstacle courses, and that really kind of helped them to persevere throughout the experience. We came back, and Kelly and I decided, Kelly's a photographer on the side, and I did some photography, elements of photography with my students, and the students all created a photograph. These are some of the examples. And then they wrote to their pieces with some pretty imaginative poetry, short stories. And these, it was making a connection to their families, to their people they work with throughout, you know, whether it be through school, through sports, through other social events. And it was quite a nice piece for them to share. So. And then we did some I am poems in the art room with some creative words that described, we talked about the characters. Please excuse the spelling. I almost had a fit when I saw some of these up, but Donna couldn't change it at the last minute. But we're looking at the art part. So you can see some of the kind of the strong words that the kids were using in the 7th grade, which I thought was pretty creative. So, as always, I love working with my community. It's been my community my whole life, and the library, Joan's somewhere here. And I just think that the kids, knowing that those resources, the YMCA and the library and these other places are there for them, we will be displaying this work in April when it's our turn, Claudia's turn for just artwork at the library. So thank you. Thank you for having us. So on to Wamsutta.
Yes. Well, Wamsutta is coming up. I just want to mention that, so the pictures also, they were partnered, so it was a photo essay project. So the students wrote to the power of these hands, and they told either a narratively based story or a factual story about the power behind the hands that you see, thus connecting, you know, with the theme and the power of building. But we are going to move on to Wamsutta, and Ms. Stevenson and Kelsey will share their experience.
Hi, thanks for having us tonight. When Donna said, "Oh, we're going to be doing a big read in, you know, it's Bridge to Terabithia," I thought, well, first it was one of my favorite books as a little girl because it's good and sad, but it also has those really strong community themes. And I said, well, we already in the 7th grade spend the year working with community, so it's a long-term project. We start with each class. They come up with their idea of an ideal community, and this manifests in many different ways. We've had towns that are underwater, on the moon. We've had some that are a little bit more dystopian, that are dealing with things like poverty and wealth disparages, like all kinds of stuff. It's really usually a reflection of who the class is. They vote on everything. They end up with sometimes jobs, sometimes they've had money involved. And last year we had one that was the town of Lit, and it was all paper circuits and LED lights, and there was one that was tree houses. And this year we're going to focus on hideaways, kind of like in Bridge to Terabithia, and sanctuaries and those sort of safe spaces you can make. But it always is a real reflection of the class, and Kelsey was kind enough to come. She's in a unique situation because her brother did this last year, and she'll be doing it this year, so she's going to have some words to speak.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Hodson. I'm going to share a little bit about my brother Nathan Hodson's artwork because he wasn't able to attend tonight. I'm going to read what he had wrote about the city project that he had done last year in art. My class last year designed a tree house city called Tremongi, which we voted on. We created a map and painted it. We worked in small groups to build each treehouse, and Miss Stevenson brought us together as a class to show us how to use the materials and how to put each house into the trees we had made. Then we put them together on the class map. This project brings the class together as a community by having us work together towards a common goal. This experience impacted me in a positive way by showing me how working together as a class can create a good-looking city. I remember this project the most because it was fun and really engaging. I'm a 7th grader this year, and I'm looking forward to experience this project because my brother have talked about how much fun he had had.
Yeah, they Nathan is at our one set of roller skating party tonight, so they're having but we did showcase the images at the our showcase night. Do you have the pictures from that one?
Just these two.
Just these. Okay. So we put all the cities out, and then the community actually comes in and votes on them. Thank you.
ladies. I had mentioned earlier, we did have one connection with the citywide Five Skies, and we made this connection through the CTE department carpentry, specifically Eileen Holman, super specifically. Eileen works with me all the time on special projects, and she came up with a small group of students, and they developed a concept around table, because within Five Skies, tables are the place over which a lot of relationships are built and a lot of wounds are healed. So Eileen collaborated on the design, building, and artwork of a Five Skies inspired table. The table itself was made out of Douglas fir, and that is a wood that's indigenous to southern Idaho, the setting of Five Skies. The artwork was based upon a quote from the novel. This table was included in the Big Read kickoff event on September 15th at the Attleboro Arts Museum, and then it stayed there throughout the remainder of the Mesa exhibit, where lots of other contributing artists had conceived of and created tables. And that went from September 11th until the 22nd. After that, the table was featured at Attleboro Public Library until the conclusion of the Big Read on October 25th. And now it's coming back to Attleboro Public Schools, and it will make its final home in central office at the superintendent's office. So a very nice artifact to have. And the work that Eileen's students did brings us back full circle to the partnerships that we experience with the community. Activities like this bring us together on lots of levels, but as I mentioned before, the partnership level is really significant. And in this way, we got to partner with both the library, the Arts Museum. They came into our schools as well as our schools going out to them. So that makes these places real and usable for us students within the community. It's not just something you drive by and it's something has every once in a while. They've had lived experiences in these places, and that will really resonate with them into adulthood. So it's super important that we continue to work with our students on doing that. So I am very grateful to Attleboro Public Library, Attleboro Arts Museum, and the district to allow us to do this kind of exploratory work. It really does matter for our students. Thank you.
Anyone have any comments or questions? Mr. Bettis?
Thank you to all of the students, family members, educators that came tonight and presented. Great job to all of you. But also thank you to those last comments of the community partnerships. I know Joan Pickleton-Smith is enjoying her retirement by joining us tonight. But the collaboration with institutions in the city like the library and the Arts Museum are critical to the success of our students. So thank you for getting the best out of those partnerships that we can.
Mr. Quinn?
One thing that's similar and one thing that's different that I've been seeing with these presentations, the thing that's similar is the arts department throughout this district seems to be at the forefront of the innovation. I just want to take a minute to say thank you for all that's being done to really make this strategic plan, this vision, a reality. So that's the same. What I see is the same. What's different is I've noticed that our spotlight meetings have evolved from being really big building focused to being thematic. and living the strategic plan. And what was nice about this particular presentation was that each school did it in their own way. They were all living the strategic plan and implementing it, but giving different experiences for the students. And I just, I really appreciate the differentiation, but still a quality experience for all. And it just, for me, was just a piece of evidence to suggest that we're realizing the things that we set out to do several years ago.
Ms. Regan.
Thank you. In closing, I would just like to say that, 5 years ago, about 4 years ago now, in our strategic plan, our vision was to be the center of the community united around education. I think the Big Read is one demonstration of that, and it shows our connection to community, student learning, and collaboration with all of the organizations in the community. But I would be remiss if I didn't take the time to especially thank a few of the leaders of the Big Read that are here with us tonight. And if you don't mind, if you could just stand. Miss Christine Johnson, she's the director of the library, Joan Pilkington Smith, and also Donna Goldstein. Also, I'd like to also especially thank the educators and the students that put in a lot of time and effort to make all the events of the Big Read, a truly amazing opportunity for everyone. So thank you so much.
Could I just,
You certainly may, yeah.
because we're going through our transition, so I'd just like to say that the 12 years have been phenomenal, and what the schools have done. The Big Read was started to be a community-wide project and get everyone pretty much on the same page, but also to do it in a sensory way, and that people could experience what these books are about, either individually or as a community or as a group. And the school department has done such a phenomenal job of being part of that. And this is what I'm going to miss. This is what I'm going to miss. And you almost brought me to tears. But I don't know how many of you have met our new library director, Chris Johnson, who's going to take it. Started out this year, and we'll be moving it forward. I don't know if you want to, as a newbie, this community is phenomenal, and I think you
I
can
could
see
that in
with
my
what's
first year
happening
already.
there.
Really appreciated the support of the school district and all of the community partners that help with the Big Read, the colleges and the Y, and just about every organization in town. So it's been great. And Joan's going to stay on as a volunteer, so don't let her on recording. So she'll still be involved in the Big Read. But thank you. We really appreciate the support. And we were just blown away by the way the school district took the theme and really expanded it, beyond anything that we could have imagined as well, and enjoyed being part of the process with the Socratic seminars and the other activities. So thank you.
I actually watched Bridge to Terabithia over the weekend. It just happened to be on.
Can I give you a hug?
They were all enthralled.
Great to see you. Oh my God.
Excellent.
All right, we'll move on to our Student Advisory Council update and our Around Attleboro update. Ms. Larson?
So for elementary schools, the report cards are going home soon. And then Willett's going to have a literacy and math games night on November 28th. And so that sounds pretty fun to me. And then there's also going to be some PTO meetings. The middle school is also going to have their PTO meetings as well as parent conferences. And so there's like a form that students will be sent home with to fill out. And then Brennan is going to take a field trip to the Trinity Rep Theater. For the high school, the pep rally's tomorrow. Really hoping for a win. Varsity jacket night was earlier tonight, so I want to just say congratulations to everyone who got those. And then our trimester exams are going to be when we get back from Thanksgiving break. For community engagement, we had Blue Pride night, we were going to have Blue Pride night a few nights ago. But we just rescheduled it with the weather and everything, so it's going to be sometime in early 2019, but we don't have an exact date yet. But that's a really awesome night. There were such elaborate plans, and everyone was so upset that it got rescheduled. But the 2030 class that presented a few nights ago, they're going to be conducting some surveys, and some students are showing websites that they made, and there's going to be presentations in the science lab, and just lots of really cool stuff to get the community involved with what we're learning in class. And then for SAC, we have a winter conference coming up, and so we're just continuing to prepare for that because we have schools from all over the state coming, so it takes a lot of teamwork to put that on. Then we're also trying to really increase student engagement in activities around the school, so we're working with other student council boards to kind of do that. That's all.
Good. Thank you very much. All right, Superintendent Sawyer, your report.
Thank you, Chairman. First, I'd like to present my proposed goals for 2018-19. I'd like to frame this discussion by saying two things. The first is I believe in goal setting. I would say that in my own life, many times over, I have accomplished more when I've had clear goals for myself than when I have not. I'm here to tell you I get more done on a Saturday if I wake up and I know what I'm trying to get done that day than if I just let the day get away from me. And I think that's how it is for many people, and certainly how it is for the district as well. So, big fan of goal setting. That being said, however, I find it a difficult exercise as your superintendent. And it challenges me in particular because in the end, I think it's appropriate to just state that I'm responsible for it all. So how to sort of hone in and pick something to set goals around is it's a challenge, at least for me. Although having done some exercises with the new superintendent induction program, I think I have good reason to believe that I'm not the only one. So in approaching my goal setting for this year, the way I've tried to think about this is, all right, given that, in the end I'm accountable for everything, goal setting should really be around what I want to bring attention to. Things that are important, that are particular to this year, not things that are sort of ongoing, that I think by writing goals will ensure that there are things that get talked about and are brought out of the general din of everything that goes on around here, and gets particular attention. And so I did pick these three goals with that in mind. On a very global level here, my first two goals are in the end about student learning. The first goal specifically about inclusive practices and our commitment to ensuring that all students are successful. And then my second goal around evaluation, because we need to make sure that the efforts that we put into evaluating our staff actually result in improved outcomes. And that's an aspect of what we do that I feel pretty strongly that we need to get more out of the effort that is required of us, under state regulations. So I think that we're not dissimilar to other districts that find that a lot of the effort is more devoted to compliance. And now that I'm in my third year, I think I'm really ready to help make sure that all this work that we put into this yields real results in terms of improving instruction. And then my third goal is around the strategic plan itself. This is a critical year for our strategic plan, right? It's the last year before we start writing a new one in earnest. So we have a progress report planned for January, but also an evaluation of our work around the plan set for June. So this is a chance to make some final progress before we sort of write the assessment of how we did, and then use that information to think about where we want to go from here. So that's sort of the thinking behind why I picked what I picked, but I certainly welcome feedback, and I'm happy to make adjustments as the committee sees fit.
Do you have any questions or comments regarding Mr. Sawyer's goals? Yeah, Mrs. Sawyers?
Yeah, I think I said the same thing last year, but I'll say it again. I like it so much more that you have 3 very concise goals. Obviously, that each goal has a lot of criteria and a lot of things that have to happen. But rather than 20 easily met goals, I like how these are very specific to our district goals, and that these are not easy goals by any means. So I appreciate that. So I think these are very fine for your 2018-2019 goals.
Mr. Geddes?
Echoing a lot of the same things that Mr. Storrs mentioned, I think I don't remember the details of your goals last year, but even in reading these goals, there's an element of staffing that plays a critical role in all of these goals. And in the first goal, you mentioned leading efforts to create classroom and school-wide conditions that facilitate and support inclusive practices throughout the district. And you list a few metrics, but one of the metrics that's not listed is related to staffing levels. I had a conversation with Mr. Connor, the principal at Wamsutta, and he talked about how in his time here, this is the first year that after the start of the year, he hasn't had to cut back on staff. And he noted how incredibly different the building feels this year because of that, both between staff morale, student comfort, consistency, so that we're continuing to improve those levels and continuing to keep things consistent for our students, I think is a huge benefit. Like I said, it's not something that's ever listed explicitly, but is directly related to everything we're trying to do as a district. So thank you to your entire staff for all of those efforts making that possible.
Thank you.
Mr. Quinn?
One of the many things that I appreciate about your approach to leadership is the ability to take the long view. And I think it's embedded within these goals that, theoretically speaking, that you could continue to have these goals, because I don't think any of them are one-year initiatives, and would encourage you to keep them. I think what is helpful for us is just to understand the current reality now, and then what changes have come, even small, as a result of these goals. And I think to your other point about setting goals, one of the challenges of a superintendent, and by de facto an assistant superintendent, is that you're responsible for a lot of things. But I think one of the nice things about these goals, it helps you to prioritize. So when you're getting pulled into the infinite number of directions, these can kind of be your compass for how you prioritize, because I know there's more to do than humanly possible, and I think you've picked good kind of anchor pieces to move the district forward.
All right, very good. So you'll update us on your progress in late winter? January?
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you. All right, so next I want to unveil a pretty exciting initiative and invite Mr. Furtado up to help with that. Want to grab the clicker while you're still standing?
Sure.
Hello, Mr. Furtado.
How we doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Floor is yours.
All right. When I returned to the district, we were in the middle of developing plans and thoughts about wireless access in our buildings, and did an enormous amount of work to achieve that over the following 2 years. One of the outcomes of all that work is we enjoyed some significant E-rate refunds for the investment in the buildings, which we had intended to set to buy hardware to take advantage of the wireless networks. We've done all of those things. Started those things actually before even putting the Wi-Fi in. We had a small kind of Chromebook program where we bought a series of Acers and Lenovo's. So we always anticipated getting to a point where, thank you, where we're going to get to something approximating a one-on-one environment for our students. So as we sit here today, we have those old original Chromebooks, which are kind of disintegrating right before our eyes. We have had an enormous amount of parent and PTO involvement in providing hardware for the environments we've constructed, to the point where today we have about 3,200 Chromebooks across the district for our 6,000 students, which puts us just about at 1 to 2. Although again, the bottom of that foundation is kind of crumbling. We have other devices. We have things called Chrome boxes, which are one-piece kind of Apple Macintosh-looking things in the labs in the elementary and middle schools. We have 14-inch Chromebooks, which we have deployed to our faculty and staff and also use for students in the learning centers and libraries. And we're very happy to report that all faculty at middle and elementary school are outfitted with Chromebooks. The high school not, because of the lack of the infrastructure here to fully utilize them. So today, one-to-one is within reach, and because of that bottom of the foundation crumbling, we thought it was prudent to start thinking about a sustainable environment and to get to the one-to-one. So when you start doing that, you run into a lot of barriers. You know, how do you charge these things? What is the policy going to be in terms of that? How do you replace them if a student forgets them? What are the repair costs? And while all of the kind of blocking and tackling is going on, from a curriculum perspective, the district continues to move forward and is at a point now where if we fully implement this, they'll be in a position to fully utilize it, which is a wonderful thing. That was not the case when we put Wi-Fi in 5 years ago. So here's what we think we should do. This is through extensive discussions with principals and curriculum folks in the district. For grades 5 through 12, the middle schools and high schools, one-to-one for the students. The elementary schools are very enthusiastic about a 1-to-2 condition, which you'll see we're very close to right now. And then 1-to-4 for grade 1 and kindergarten, but in a different way. The transition to what will be our install base would take place in grade 1. Kindergarten would be an opportunity to employ a device within the context of going to school. And we think that a different device is a better way of doing that.
Yeah, so to perhaps explain a little bit of the instructional reasoning behind this particular plan, Ms. Regan will explain the conversations that we had around that.
So in grades 5 through 12, all of our students and teachers are very well versed in Google Classroom and the Google Suite, all of the tools that are included in there. They use that to support their learning independent projects as well as collaborative projects that are completed throughout the school year. It also gives them an opportunity for more personalized learning using different platforms that are available. For example, Newsela is an online reading platform that provides an opportunity for students to choose an appropriate reading lexile level so they can all access the same content but at their specific reading level. So one-to-one is, I think, the reason why we decided for grades 5 through 12, it was important for their learning in the classroom as well as at home. I did speak with the OIT department today. Google Classroom is something that is used, can be used at home without internet services. Offline, students can continue to complete their projects and then be able to submit that work when they re-enter the building the next day. So all the work will still be there connect from school to home. In grades 2 through 4, a lot of the work that they do is in centers or, again, in collaborative projects. So 1 to 2 environment is best for them there. Grade 1, they're using ST Math and other programs that support literacy like Lexia. And in kindergarten, with the use of the iPads, they're using different apps that support foundational literacy skills, foundational math skills, as well as certain apps that help students, an app similar to ChatterPix, where they can have, the student can be the voice behind a particular animal that they've researched, and they can share the information that way. So the technology does allow them to share their information in other ways besides paper or pencil.
So where we are today, in the secondary levels, you can see, we need something between 200 and 270 per middle school and about 600 in the high school. We also need to outfit the high school staff, faculty, with units. The proposal we're looking at would infuse about 800 units per year into these levels. So you can see within 2 years that we would be fully one-to-one, with the first year being a little bit of a struggle with those older units, but within 2 years, fully one-to-one at the secondary level. The elementary level, it's really just a question of outfitting kindergarten. We have capacity within the level to move some units around and address the needs of schools that don't have sufficient units today. The problem, of course, is getting it done. Financially, as I said, the first year would be an infusion of units primarily at the secondary level. Because of the relative newness of the faculty units, we're contemplating using some of the 14-inch devices we currently have to not have everything new at the same time, because that gets the replenishment cycle a little more difficult to manage going forward. And as I said, outfitting kindergarten. So on a lease basis, it would be something around $70,000 for the district. Year 2, where we would be, essentially fully outfitted, that annual cost would grow to about $150,000. But again, we would be where we need to be at all levels at that point. And then we start getting into again, a fundamental replenishment cycle, replacing older units with about a quarter of our annual need every year, and the annual budget on a lease basis would go up to about $240. And then finally, be fully saturated. Nobody would have a unit older than 4 years old, and the annual operating would be about $325,000.
That would be the ultimate annual cost.
That would be the
Outfitting the
cost
entire
going
district.
forward. Yeah. As I said, we're still wrestling with a few other considerations. So the students who would be on a one-on-one basis, so grades 5 through 12, they would get a hard carrying case that would protect the unit from what is inevitably going to happen. And the cost of outfitting those units with cases would be about $30,000 a year. We will definitely need to find some software that's going to allow very easy inventory management, so we know where the devices are. All of these have GPS devices in them, so nobody can take them without us knowing where it is. It's a question of knowing specifically who has it, whether it's in Montana or Rhode Island. But there'll be a little bit of a cultural change internally because the current desktops and laptops that some of the faculty use and still use even with their Chromebooks will go away. We can't support those from a personnel and financial perspective while rolling this out. There's nothing that can't be done in the Chromebook, so that would be the device for our staff and faculty. And we expect to be able to do all of this, including the lease portion through the 30B process. So, I mean, through state contracts, so there would be no 30B process.
So to sort of put a finishing touch on this, in the end, this is about providing students with a 21st century learning environment. You know, as I now have goals, it'd be good to mention that, you know, that's a real essential part of our strategic plan, and we believe that this will help us to get to a place that we are not currently in terms of saturation of devices, so that we can take the next step in terms of how we deliver instruction. And that's really what this is about. This is about teaching and giving teachers the tools to do the kinds of things that we think we should be doing in 2018 and beyond. But it's really important to understand that the devices themselves aren't the what makes the difference. It's how they're employed by the teacher, and that, you know, more and more, you know, technology isn't something that happens in isolation, right? When it's really effective, it's almost invisible, right? It's fully integrated into what our classroom teachers are doing. And through this journey from where we were, you know, even 5 years ago, woefully behind, we've made really great strides in putting ourselves in a position where we think that we're ready to take this next step. But it's important to note that our thinking on this has evolved in that time, and it continues to evolve. And, you know, we're trying not to overcommit to anything, because we've seen how some districts jump on what makes the most sense in one year and then are sort of trapped by that. And as much as we were really, really far behind, there was an opportunity in that when we finally got serious about this, you know, we were able to jump ahead rather than sort of be trapped in a situation. So we continue to try to keep our thinking flexible on this, and to be open to the idea that, you know, today's solution might not be tomorrow's. But the key point here is that this is a critical moment in our efforts, because, you know, for the last however many 6 years, you know, we've been buying as many devices as we could, and putting in the infrastructure to make sure that those devices would actually be able to work in the building. That period of this, you know, development is over, because now that the devices have to be replenished, you know, we have to put money back into returning them, and so we can't get further gains. So this shift is really our attempt to continue to make progress on having the appropriate number of devices, given that with the number that we currently have, we cannot continue to go down the track that we were for the last 6 years.
So in looking at this, and you have the purchase total versus the lease total, is assuming 4 years for each device?
Yes,
that's why it's fifth
there
and
would be
ninth
a
grade?
4-year lease. So when you enter middle school, you'll get a device, and when you enter high school, you'll get a device.
And so once we ultimately, in year 4, get the entire district up and running with leased units, the cost is essentially the same.
Right, yes.
It's more the first 3 years if we were to purchase, and then when it catches up, but then it stays the same.
And then it stays steady state, yep.
And is this on top of budget that we're already spending on devices, or would this be in lieu of what we're spending now?
No, usually the money we've been spending on Chromebooks, like I said, there's a big component that comes from parents and PTOs, and we have been spending our kind of one-time resources a lot. As I said, E-rate rebates, some carryover funds, those sorts of things, for these kind of bulk purchases, because we've had some kind of critical items. First, we had, you know, at the elementary and middle schools, we had grade span electronic testing, a significant number of units. This year, we had high school electronic testing, which was 500 units. So we've had these kind of mandates to meet that required significant investment. And as we're doing that, we're seeing some of the older units not be reliable, certainly not something you'd want to put in a testing environment, and certainly wouldn't hold up to doing things like going home every day. So when you start looking at covering that on top of the investment we've already made, which will also degrade over time, how do you sustain that going forward? And if you're going to take that leap and sustain that going forward, you might as well get to where you've always planned to be anyway.
Is a Chromebook realistically going to last 4 years if it's going to take it home back and forth every day? That just seems like a long.
It's definitely pushing it. No question. Most of the programs are 3 years. That would be a much more expensive proposition for us. It's just terribly convenient that we have a 4-year span in middle school and a 4-year span in high school, and financially it makes it a little easier to get to. But that is definitely pushing the kind of physical limits of a Chromebook, yes.
I mean, our experience has been that, they last longer than 4 years if we take care of them. Of course, if we're handing them out, there's a question of whether that's going to hold up or not. But most of the devices we've purchased have lasted more than 4 years. So.
Mr. Quinn?
I really appreciate that you've shifted from a BYOD to a real one-to-one. I think from an equity standpoint, that's critical. I also think it's essential that the lease is built in to the budget. I think what becomes problematic is that, as you're seeing, that you get that one-time infusion of district funds, or we've been over-reliant on parents, which is not sustainable. And then it's a hold your breath proposition to, get the 4 years. I'm skeptical you're going to get 4 years out of them, particularly at the price point where you're looking to purchase. There's also the questions of insurance on those devices and who's ultimately responsible for that piece of it, and then just the general refresh of devices that don't make it through that cycle. So I think that proposal's on the optimistic end. I know that the management systems typically run in the tens of thousands, probably larger because it's on a per device basis. But regardless, this is essential. I don't know as if we can realize our vision without having these tools, or particularly sending kids into college environments or work environments where they're not only just readily available, that they're used and they're developing those skills. I particularly appreciate at the elementary level, that 2-to-1 ratio is really strong. I would kind of just float a question of, for digital media creation, are Chromebooks the best? What are the limitations of Chromebooks? Again, this is maybe showing my personal preference here. But I think there's a lot to like, and I think it's going to be incumbent upon us to continue to support the endeavors of the district as we back essentially the fourth utility, of which is technology, right? That we treat it like our lights, that we treat it like our heat. And kudos to you, Mr. Furtado, for getting the roadways in place and stabilized before we started to put the metaphorical cars in. So it's been a really thoughtful process so far.
Mr. Storrs?
Yeah, I think this is great. The idea of one-to-one has always been like a dream, and so the fact that we're actually having this conversation is amazing to me right now. Obviously, there are some concerns, when we're talking about, I'm assuming 5th grade and up is the ones that would be taking it home because, right, and the lower grades would be staying in the classroom overnight. Okay. But still, we're talking lost and stolen, damage. I think we would need to have an understanding of the potential costs in relation to that. As well as what is the ownership responsibility for the student and for the parents. Obviously, come the end of the year, all of a sudden one doesn't get turned in. What happens? How do you deal with that? Those are the kind of questions that I have. But again, the fact that we're actually having this one-to-one conversation is amazing to me, and I'm very happy about it.
Mr. Geddes?
Just one of the slides you had, just a clarification question. You had said right now we're at a 1-to-2 ratio because we have about 3,200 units being used. And I understand that that's a district-wide ratio, but if we're looking primarily at doing one-to-ones 5th grade and on, we're pretty close to that being one-to-one for that population, correct?
I have, excuse me, I have the secondary slide in there. It shows we would need about 1,100 units to be one-to-one,
Yeah.
5 to 12.
So we're about like 1 1/3 to 1.
Yeah.
So, okay. And then and in that slide you also mentioned just under 600 that are needed just at the high school, correct?
Yeah.
I think this is, to Mr. Quinn's point about it being unsustainable to continue to depend on PTOs. I know we just had the Blue Pride Palooza a few weeks ago. I don't know how much came out of that, but that's the 4th time that they've done that event. I can't imagine where this district would be without that event at this point. Having in the first 3, there was over $50,000 raised each time. So thank you to the Blue Pride ambassadors and to all the family members and community members that participate in that event. That has been a huge reason that we've gotten to where we've gotten to, but it's not something that we can continue to depend on.
Yeah, we would not be here without parental support.
Right.
But our parent organizations have made it pretty clear to us that
They
you
could
know,
use that money
they're,
elsewhere.
they are ready to move on to other things. That they stepped in and helped us to bridge, this period in time, but now they have other interests, and we are busy preparing for that, and think that they really did a great service.
Absolutely.
Ms. Larson.
I just want to say, in the classroom, I love these. I use them like at least one class a day, and I definitely think the carrying cases are a good idea. But yeah, I really can't say enough good stuff about them. It really helps with, especially the group projects where you can share the documents online. I know I'm graduating this year, and it'd be super cool to have one-to-one this year, but so lucky of the kids coming up in the following years to have that opportunity.
What's your time frame on this? So what's your goal as far as, we're talking about rolling it out for next school year, year 1?
Yeah, so the year 1 implementation of the slides is a pretty
Does it have the year?
yeah.
Well, that's September. Yeah.
So year 1 would be
FY20.
September.
Okay.
So we'd be hoping to have devices in the hands of 5th and 9th graders next year.
Great. Well, I mean, I think I'd echo what Mr. Quinn said, and part of what Mr. Storr said as well, is that this is, needed and exciting, for a lot of us who've been on the committee for a while. Technology's been something that we've been tackling as a district. The excitement of finally getting the infrastructure in here several years ago, and then seeing more devices come in. I mean, it's been a slow and steady progress, but certainly there's been needed progress made. But to be able now to make the jump to where, as Mr. Storr said, we've all been kind of looking towards this, is exciting. And there are going to be hiccups and things that we have to address as we go through, and I think that would be the case with any plan. And I'm confident that you will all have contingency plans in place for the different scenarios that were mentioned. But I think it's a very exciting time for Attleboro.
One last point, particularly since you're going 5th and 9th, I think we've got some really creative and innovative teachers. The other piece of this is missing is professional development. That the research speaks time and again, and I can just speak from experience that without it and without ongoing, that the devices can just be a simple replacement of our efficiency, and that's not what we're investing in. And so I think that's critical, and we're going to need to support that as well as a committee.
Mr. Storrs.
One question I do have is, I mean, I can understand we have to do a phase in, grades per year. I get that. But I guess for the first few years, I'm wondering, at the middle school especially, why not work backwards instead of upwards? Starting at the 8th grade and working down to 5th rather than 5th through 8th, because, again, 8th is getting ready to go to the high school, so it almost seems like the 8th and 9th would almost make a little more sense than going the reverse. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the year, they turn these in, I assume. Is that the plan? It's not something they keep for 4 years, is it?
No, we, excuse me, we would bring them in the summer and, do refurbish work. So they would have it during the school year, but that unit would be tracked to that student, so.
So the next year you'd give it back to the same student, pretty much was what you're saying? Okay, I mean, I could see that side of it. And I'll just a quick thought there about whether or not for the middle school go backwards rather than upwards. Just a thought.
My understanding of how this is all going to play out is that because of all the devices that are already in the building, in year 2, we're at 1-to-1 at the secondary
Okay.
level.
Right, get it.
So it's not that long of a wait.
I see.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the last thing on our agenda tonight is just a quick MSBA update. We had an SBC meeting just prior to school committee tonight. It was just housekeeping, paying some bills, but that, certainly the work continues. Chairman Withers will be reaching out to try to reschedule the joint meeting that had to be postponed due to the weather last week. So there'll be more information on that as soon as we know the date. And really just to let you all know that, there's real intensive design work going on currently. Both myself and Mr. Rooney have spent some real hours with the architects, bringing in particular people for specific areas of the building to make sure that, as we move from a schematic design to actually construction level drawings, that the spaces are designed the way we really think they need to meet the needs of students in this district for the next 50 years. So that's been quite a process. It's been very interesting, and we really look forward to being able to show the community that 3D rendering and how that building looks with all that work now.
Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Sawyer. Moving on, we have minutes from our October 29th, 2018 meeting. Minutes were circulated with your packet. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We have a consent agenda. Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $143.05 from Primetime Sports to the Attleboro High School field hockey team.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $163.50 from the Attleboro Varsity Booster Club to the Attleboro High School Student Council.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept a donation of a new scoreboard console for the high school gym with an estimated value of $800 from the Attleboro Youth Basketball Association.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $1,731.09 from Custom Inc. LLC for the Attleboro High School class of 2019.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept an anonymous donation in the amount of $30.80 from a family who moved out of district to be used to paying outstanding lunch balances for less fortunate students.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept an anonymous donation in the amount of $350 to be used to pay outstanding lunch balances for less fortunate students.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $18,500 from the Feinstein Foundation as broken down in the memorandum dated November 15th, 2018.
So moved. Second.
Discussion?
Is it 18.5 or 15.5?
18.5.
It went up 3. Oh, okay. I am looking at an older version of the consent agenda. Thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $5,000 from the Thatcher PTO to the Thatcher Gifts donation line for technology.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept a donation of 35 electronic musical keyboards, $52 each, to Coelho Middle School from the Coelho PTO for a total donation of $1,820.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve an overnight international field trip proposal for 24 grade 9 through 12 students to attend the Dominican Republic during February vacation 2021.
So moved.
2021.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve an overnight international field trip proposal for 45 grades 9 through 12 students to attend Spain and Portugal during April vacation 2021.
So moved. Second.
Discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Larson?
There's been a lot of these trips going on. They're fantastic. I happen to know someone who's gone on a few of them. And I was thinking perhaps in the future, Mr. Pereira would enlighten the committee about some of the trips that they've been going on, and maybe we could do that sometime in the spring.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you, good idea. Anyone else? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that concludes the consent agenda tonight. Moving on to our subcommittee reports. Mrs. Scales, Policy and Personnel.
Thank you. Our meeting was on November 5th. The administration brought forth a new job description, dropout prevention and intervention coordinator. Due to the new accountability system being implemented at DESE, there is a need to have this position. Major changes to the accountability system that pertain to chronic student absences and how these will affect the district's accountability reports have been implemented, and this person will be responsible in enforcing them. Anything else the administration would like to add? Okay. Motion to approve the proposed job description for the dropout prevention and intervention coordinator as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion?
Work here, is that review or renew in 2020?
Review,
Review.
right? Yes, review.
Okay.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We took a look at policy ADD Safe Schools. Administration noted that this policy overlaps with other more current policies. Also, Mass does not have this policy. So a motion to remove policy ADD Safe Schools from the binder.
So moved.
Second.
Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, the Health and Wellness Committee took a look at policy ADF, Health and Wellness Policy. The only recommended edits brought forth pertain to updates to references and legal references. Motion to approve the updates to policy ADF, Health and Wellness as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, the administration brought forth a proposed policy IJNDD social media. A lot of work was put into drafting this policy, and it has already been reviewed by the superintendent and technology coordinator. It will be vetted by legal counsel and the unions for feedback, and will be brought back at a later date. We just want to thank Ms. Singer again for the thorough job she did on it. The committee asked for a quick update on policy JFA, enrollment of children of non-resident staff. While no updates are being brought forward tonight, the committee asked the administration to carefully monitor this area. The administration brought forward two new policies, KA School Community Relation Goals and KBA School Parent Guardian Relation Goals. We feel that both policies speak to our mission and vision of the district. So a motion to approve KA School Community Relation Goals as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Motion to approve KBA Student Parent Guardian Relation Goals as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. There are no changes to the next two exhibits. We are just updating the review date. Motion to review date of policy exhibit KBBA E1 sample notice and policy exhibit KBBA E2 sample affidavit.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we reviewed policy KBDA district-wide communication protocols and found that there is no mass policy. We feel this policy isn't necessary. So a motion to remove policy KBDA from the policy binder.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We looked at policy KCDA, community and corporate sponsorships of student activities. Mass does not have this policy, and it is extremely outdated. Motion to remove policy KCDA, community and corporate sponsorships of student activities from the policy binder.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we cleaned up a few cross-reference items on policy BEDG and JRA, but they do not need committee approval. The next three items are needed so as to add the review date as it appears to be missing. Motion to note the review date of policy exhibit KFE1, KFE2, and KFE3.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. We reviewed policy KHA, Attleboro Public School name usage. This is covered under another policy, and there is no corresponding mask policy. Therefore, a motion to remove policy KHA from the policy binder.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The administration is also looking to remove policy KLKC, government communication, as Mass does not have this policy and they do not feel it is needed. A motion to remove policy KLKC from the bylaw.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? No. Disagree? Okay, one. Lastly, we went into executive session so the administration could update us on safety in the district. Our next meeting is scheduled for December 3rd. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Scales.
You're welcome.
Next, we have finance and budget. Mr. Larson?
Yes. The Finance and Budget Subcommittee met November 7th. Two items to update the committee on. The first is a housekeeping. We bring forward a motion to send to the Municipal Council for approval of payment of prior year invoices totaling $8,245.82, as listed in the memo dated October 31st, 2018. This is 10 items. The invoices obviously just did not come in before the past year ended, so you have to go through this process in order to get them paid. Any other discussion? Oh, excuse me, second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The other thing to bring forward to the committee, we did invite the special ed director to the subcommittee meeting so that we can continue the conversation that we had at the prior meeting about the special ed out-of-district tuition costs that we are facing. I think we had a very good discussion. The director was able to shed some light on their processes, and we were able to express some of our concerns about how to deal with the costs of some of these items that we truly have no real choice about. We are open to the public. That's part of public education. One of the challenges going forward is when people show up during the summer with these extravagant expenses that you didn't know were coming, but you have to find a way to deal with. The subcommittee will be continuing to work with Mr. Furtado over the next few months to strategize a plan to come up and cover the shortcoming that we have currently. And we'll continue to update the committee with what those decisions are and what our plan to cover that expense going forward is going to be. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. That concludes our subcommittee reports tonight. Next, we have open forum. Is there anyone who would like to address the committee tonight at open forum?
I will briefly.
Do you want to address the committee at open forum, or you want to address the committee in new business at the end?
I suppose whatever is better. It's really not that.
The floor is yours.
Okay, let's do it here. Since we're not going to meet again until second Monday of December, I'd be remiss to not pass up the chance to let folks know that Attleboro Community Theater is kicking off their next holiday show, The Trial of Ebenezer Scrooge. It kicks off the weekend after Thanksgiving and runs for the next 3 weekends. You have a member of the school committee, yours truly, in the show, as well as Counselor Delicio. And the reason I bring it up here tonight is that we have several students from Attleboro Public Schools, elementary, middle, and high school, that are taking part in the production. So if you have the opportunity and you'd like to be entertained, I would highly recommend catching the show.
Thank you very much. Anyone else want to address the committee? All right, I will close open forum. And does anyone else have anything else, new business for tonight? All right, being none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
get it now. I didn't have a problem with it.
You talked to me, right?
Yeah, just quickly.
Yeah, I just don't want to give this to Judy before.